Hey geeks, what's up? I hope you're having a great week. I had a touch of the flu last weekend and into this week. I appear to be back to 100% now, but I apologize if my voice is still a little rough. Getting sick during pollen season is not an ideal situation either. But I am feeling 100%, even if my voice and my nasals, I might sound a little nasally. And this tea out of the Transformers mug definitely helps. So, wanted to go through some recent comics that I purchased. I don't know when it was, probably a couple months ago, I did a video for DC Comics, I guess their manga division. There's a new Bat manga out there called Justice Buster. And that video, it never aired because it went haywire. I showed the book off, I think, in a previous video, just briefly. So, Volume 2 came out, and I haven't read it yet, but I really liked Volume 1, and this is Volume 1. So this is a DC Comics approved manga. It's published by Kodansha, and it's by Ichi Shimizu and Tomohiro Shimaguchi. It is a sort of high-tech take on Batman. In this particular Bat universe, Batman is just kind of like maybe a year or two into the whole Batman thing. Robin is not the boy wonder. Robin is a AI. So his supercomputer is called Robin. And he is strangely allied with the Joker. It's the Joker who is actually kind of his sidekick in this particular Batman world, which is an interesting idea. And they write that character pretty well. He's kind of annoying to Batman because he is, the Joker, and he's just kind of, he doesn't appear to take much very seriously. And he's almost sort of like a reluctant partner to Batman. Batman's just kind of like, I don't really need your help, dude, but okay, So, and I don't know if he's a reformed villain at this point, or if it seems like he just kind of like latched on to Batman. So it's an interesting concept. And the artwork, of course, is, pretty cool, high quality, which you expect in a manga. I'm not familiar with these creators, but I know that they did something popular. I can't remember what, but I remember reading the synopsis. It was something along the lines of like they took time out from their full-time manga that they're working on to work on this Batman Justice Buster book. And, Commissioner Gordon is in it. That's the Penguin there. So you've got the Rogues Gallery makes their appearances. Enigma is in it. Enigma. Deathstroke makes an appearance. And essentially, that's what the plot is. There's a lot of mysterious things afoot in Gotham. And this sort of very super high-tech version of Batman with his Robin crime-fighting AIs trying to figure out what's going on. And he's still kind of new to this game, but these the typical Rogues Gallery of villains are at this point have made themselves known to him. And he has, however, not really encountered the Justice League at this stage of the game. And this is sort of like where it goes is it sort of like kind of touches on the whole world's finest concept, which is the team up of Superman and Batman. So there's an excellent scene in here where he meets Clark Kent for the first time, and they kind of dance around the fact that they know each other's identities, and they kind of dance around the fact that Clark Kent is represents the Justice League, and Batman is sort of like not ambivalent to them, but he's not a part of them and doesn't really want to be a part of them at this point. So it creates a certain tension point between the two, because they're kind of not frenemies, but they're still trying to, I think, get a feel for the sincerity of each other, what their intentions are. I think Batman is still trying to figure out, if Justice League and Superman, are they actually a threat or not? Because you know how Batman thinks. He works through all scenarios, even superheroes. To him, he thinks in terms of what if they became a super threat. So that element is introduced into this, and the title again is Justice Buster. So you can kind of see maybe where that just the title alone, where that might be leading us in this story. They do a really good job of setting up, like, okay, what exactly is where's this manga gonna go? Like, where is this story gonna go? So, what is Justice Buster? Well, they reveal that at the end of this volume, and it's pretty cool. It hints at some very interesting things to come. So I think Volume 2 just dropped recently, or at least I picked it up a couple weeks ago at my local comic book shop. And I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it starts out, like when it started out, I was looking at it and I was like, wait, I don't remember this being like a continuance of the last volume, but I think it's one of those sort of fast forward scenes, or maybe even a dream sequence. Let's just say it's kind of reminiscent of, Batman versus Superman, Zack Snyder's movie. There's some conflict. So, kind of go through the artwork in here without showing off too much. Again, this is the first time I'm seeing this stuff myself, so it looks like some kind of an encounter with Two-Face there. But yeah, I liked the first one enough that I was like, I want to read the second one for sure. Like, I want to see where this is going. It's Wayne Manor there, looks like, and another shot of Commissioner Gordon going through some lineup photos. This is like possibly a flashback from when Bruce was orphaned. Again, because this story takes place, shortly, I think 1 or 2, 3 years at the most after he's become Batman. So the murder of his parents is still a fresh, idea in his mind, obviously. I'm taking risk of spoiling this for myself by thumbing through it. Yeah, so gonna read this one. I started reading it actually today, and that opening sequence, I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember the end of the last one ending with all this violence. And it didn't. I went back and read it, and I was like, oh no. Okay. So this has to be starting with some kind of dream sequence. As you can tell from the cover, it's kind of, come on. You can kind of tell where this is going. You can tell where this is going. Which is cool. And on that note, Batman Superman. Recently picked this up and read it. World's Finest. Dave Gibbons, Steve Rude, the dude, Steve Olive, Kessel. I'm not familiar with Kessel. Is that the letterer or the color? No, Olive is probably the colorist. The thing that annoyed me about this book is they're actually, the only credits are right here on the cover. There's no interior credits, but I know that Rude is an artist. He did the cover, which is pretty cool. Olive is a colorist usually, or maybe inker. And I guess Gibbons wrote it? I don't know. They don't tell you. I'd have to look it up on the internet. It's an excellent graphic novel, though. I enjoyed this immensely. There's not even really any legal indicia in it, so the only... I just know that the cover painting says Steve Rude 92, so I assume this was put together sometime around 1992. But it's excellent. This is kind of a retelling, yet again, another retelling, of Superman and Batman kind of pairing up for the first time. Although they make it explicit that they don't really want to pair up and partner up in this one. They want to swap. So the gist of the story is Lex Luthor has an interest in Gotham, and the Joker has an interest in Metropolis. And so they team up. They have a deal. And they cause all kinds of mayhem. Luthor wants to buy Gotham Orphanage. And Joker, I think, built a theme park in Metropolis. But this opening sequence is excellent. Then you have so Batman taking on some criminals. So the first few pages, I mean, there's no dialogue at all. This is the only dialogue when he realizes the Joker is at work. And then you have this flashback sequence. And then it cuts to Metropolis. It's funny, you see up there in the upper right, somebody left that panel empty of the lettering. The letterer did not notice that he was supposed to put morning in Gotham or morning in Metropolis. And then, again, more sequence. No word balloons. No descriptors. And you don't need it. The sequential art is enough for you to follow these panels. And then back to this sort of flashback sequence, and then we get into a dialogue. We go into this party at the orphanage, and this is kind of the first time Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent meet, and they already are aware of each other. They already know each other's secret identity. And then, of course, you've got... so you bring together luminaries of both cities in this sequence, Gotham and Metropolis. And you got, Jimmy Olsen is there, and Perry White is there. Is it Perry White? Commissioner Gordon. Lois Lane, who kind of starts hitting on Bruce Wayne, but she's kind of after him for an interview. So that whole love triangle situation between Lois, Clark, and Bruce is... they hint that it might be going in that direction. And Lois does meet Bruce for dinner, and then Clark becomes aware of this. And at one point, basically, he just comes out and asks Lois, like, did you hook up with Bruce? in a polite, taciturn way. And she gives him a really good reply, and she says, I'm a professional reporter. I don't get involved with the subjects of my interviews. She's like, my interest in him is strictly for the interview, thereby reaffirming that she and Clark Kent still have a thing. There's in other words, she's saying, don't worry, Bruce Wayne didn't pick me up or anything. So I thought that was well done. A lot of sequences in this book, a lot of no dialogue sequences. Great use of coloring. The colors change and adapt to the story. As you can see here, that's a tenant building fire. But when you go back to like this conversation with the Joker and Lex Luthor. You got, a lot of purple and teal. Definitely purple and teal are great colors for the Joker. You got the green hair. You get into the Batcave, and you got a lot of blacks and grays and dark blues, which is, that's the Batman, basically the Batman color scheme. And this whole sequence with saving the orphans out of the fire and so forth, a lot of orange, a lot of yellow. And then, the Joker starts wreaking havoc in Metropolis. So just, you just thrown all kinds of colors into that. It's just an excellently done. I haven't seen too many other people talking about this book. I mean, it's been out there clearly now, for 30 years or so. This is a very, very clean copy too. I bought it used, I think for like $5. But I mean, it looks brand new, which is always cool. And then, the really good delineation of these flashback pages, which go back to some events of the one of the characters' youth. The owner of the orphanage has an interesting back history that is part of the mystery. It's a plot point. Then they show you these coloring book pages of some of the orphans who, write about their favorite superheroes, Batman and Superman, which is pretty cool. The story takes place over a pretty long period of time, almost a year's worth of time. So you have seasonal elements. You've got, it's getting to be like around Christmas time. So you've got snow coming down. It gets right into the detail of the, of the snowflakes, which is, this has to be Dave Gibbons' artwork. Let's see here. There's a Bruce Wayne brooding in Wayne Manor. Superman lifting a nuclear reactor. You could probably discern what's going on there. Into space, I'm sure. He's pushing it out into space, so you know what that means. Yeah, excellent book. If you find this out in the wild, pick it up. A worthy addition to the world's finest series. I also picked this up, finally, The Ghost in the Shell, The Human Algorithm, Volume 1. I don't know if Volume 2 is out yet, but this is apparently what occurs in the Ghost in the Shell series after the events of Ghost in the Shell 1.5, which I have not read yet. I've read Ghost in the Shell 1.0, I guess, which is the original series of mangas. I have that in the, I think it was Dark Horse who published that, the collected works in black and white. I have that volume, but I also got the deluxe edition, I think that Kodansha put out, and that's got Ghost in the Shell 1, it's got Ghost in the Shell 1.5, and then it's got Ghost in the Shell 2.0, which I think is called, I forget what that's called, but all three of those sort of arcs are in that big book. It's available now in bookstores. You can pick up a copy at your LCS or Barnes & Noble or on Amazon. It's a pretty big book. I should probably show it off at some point, but but I haven't read all that yet. So, but this is what happens after that book. This is kind of, the in between. So there is some continuity. If you know Ghost in the Shell, there's a lot of, I don't want to say continuity issues, but there's different continuities between the movies and the manga, but they all kind of follow the same continuity, basically at a top level, but they're not in complete alignment. So this I believe is supposed to just be more fill-in story. Well, I don't want to say fill-in. It's not filler, but it's more filling in the gaps between GITS 1.5 and then the continuation. And it says on the back, prepare for the new Netflix anime with this manga prequel. So, unless I'm mistaken, now the Netflix anime came out like 2 or 3 years ago, and I think that was Ghost in the Shell 2049 or something like that, and it was good. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it because I wasn't a fan of that type of animation style they had in it, but it turned out to be really good. I liked it a lot. So I don't know how connected this book is to that, because this is pre-standalone complex. Whereas the Netflix show is chronologically the most contemporary or up-to-date Ghost in the Shell part of the entire Ghost in the Shell saga. It's the most current, up-to-date series of events in the future. But this is before standalone complex, is my understanding. And there again, it gets confusing, I know. Standalone complex, I have there's a couple of different versions of it, and it also, standalone complex is also the title of different, it has a couple of different, I guess, series wrapped inside standalone complex. So, yeah, that's about the best I can do. I'm confused, okay? I have to get online and reboot my understanding of Ghost in the Shell's continuity. And again, there's different continuities in the video and the movies versus the mangas. So, yeah, there's, and this one was not written by the original creator, which is a shame. I don't even remember his name. That's a crime. But this was written by somebody else. Junichi Fujisaka wrote this one. But it's based on, obviously, the Ghost in the Shell characters. So the synopsis says, the 2030s, a decade of upheaval for Japan and Section 9. Recent events have left Togusa and his comrades full of scars and regrets, but the march of time can only quicken. Hackers attempt to assassinate a populist politician, and the investigation leads Bato to a suspicious factory in the artificial islands in southern Japan. Meanwhile, Chief Aramaki hears of a disturbing discovery at the end of the country. Dozens of artificial bodies illegally dumped near a village where an anti-cyberization sect conducts their training and rites. Among the empty shells is the unmistakable shape of the woman who embodied Section 9 until she disappeared, Major Matogo Kusasani. So, yeah, that kind of tells you what happens at the end of Ghost in the Shell. I guess for lack of a better term, I'm going to say Ghost in the Shell Volume 3 or 3.0. And, like, how many times has the Major been, like, lost and they found her? Not that I'm complaining. I love Ghost in the Shell. And again, I will say, the one with Scarlett Johansson was criminally underrated. And possibly sabotaged by review bombing from other competing studios. Let's just leave it at that. But if you ever get a chance, check that version out. It's not anywhere near as bad as people say. Speaking of cyberpunk, I also read this recently, and this was good. I enjoyed it overall. The Five Nightmares by Matt Fraction and artwork by Salvador LaRocha. So I guess this run of Iron Man came out in the early 2000s, or yeah, like around 2005, 2006, and so forth. And it is said that this is the basis of sort of the MCU Iron Man movies in terms of how they based their character of Tony Stark and some of the events that occur in the MCU movies, in the three Iron Man movies. This was drawn as a heavy use of source material, and you can see that reading this. I could see that in here. This does kind of play up the whole Tony Stark playboy, rich playboy angle, but secretly he and Pepper are in love with each other. That's definitely a major part of this series. And then sort of the the movement of Stark away from weapons to Stark technologies being used for the good of humanity is definitely an overarching theme. Now, in this run, Stark is still director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I guess this is the post-Civil War era, so because that is still referenced in this book. Spider-Man appears near the end, and he's very much similar to the Tom Holland Spider-Man. He's kind of an annoyance to Tony, but also kind of under his tutelage, but he's also an outlaw. So this is where the Civil War reference comes in. And Tony's like telling him things like, you just need to register or get registered, and we can team up. It'll be legit, And Peter Parker's like, no, man, I don't want to do that, brother, no. So, I thought the writing in this was pretty good. The artwork, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this artwork. It's clearly heavily digitally painted. However, I think in terms of its application of digital paint, if one could surmise that you can apply digital paint, similar to a way that you apply physical paint with the brush, there's a certain technique to that. But I think overall it suffers from, first of all, too much glare on these pages. Does everything have to be printed on super glossy format now? I don't know. I guess I'm grumpy and I'm old school, and I like high quality newsprint, like Baxter paper, But the gist of the story is Obadiah Stane's son, Ezekiel, who is also clearly insane and genocidal and a mass murderer and an entitled twit, has his own technology, and he starts, essentially wreaking mayhem. Not only is he committing acts of terrorism and mass murder, but he's basically devised a plot to take down Stark Technologies or Stark Industries. And Tony has to do a little detective work to figure out who is actually doing this at first. And then he does. And so it becomes kind of a battle of the minds and a race against time to find out where Ezekiel Stane is going to strike again, him and his band of fanatics. And but we got some good action with AIM. He takes on AIM, finds a version of MODOK, which is always fun. But this version is not MODOK. This version is MODOG, MODOG. Mental organism designed only for genocide. But Tony soon realizes that the true enemies behind this plot are not these AIM factions. They're just an annoyance that he disposes of quickly, along with MODOG. But more acts of violence occur, so he's got to figure out quick who's behind it. And Again, with this artwork, I'm on the fence about it. It reminds me similarly of that book I was singing the praises of, Mega City 909, which appeared to be painted artwork, and I still think it was, I'm sure it was digitally painted, but it was on pencils. They clearly had examples of the pencils, the character development, and some of the panels in some of the issues of that book. And I think it's a similar approach here. I mean, I've seen some of Salvador's other work, and he's clearly an accomplished penciler. I mean, the dude can draw, no doubt about it. Here's an example. There's just a certain softness, I think, to the coloring that bothers me in this book. But there's also a certain sleekness that's also involved that I like, because I think it kind of fits the sort of cyber, the cyber tech aesthetic that you want in Iron Man. So I don't hate it like I do a lot of modern comics. Reed Richards makes a little bit of an appearance in here, and he plays 5 games of chess with Tony at the same time, and Tony wins all 5 games. He puts Reed into checkmate on all 5 games, which gives you an idea of the brilliance of Tony Stark. Even though he's saying Reed Richards is like the smartest man in the world, they have a mutual respect. I hear they are playing the multiple chess games while they're talking about serious stuff. And then you've got, this is a good panel here. These panels here, he is in his lab. Looks very similar to the lab that you see in the MCU. And then you have, as opposed to that, you've got Zeke Stane working kind of like in these grubby, backwater environments. He's just kind of on the move constantly to stay one step ahead of Stark and S.H.I.E.L.D., building this tech. He's got this girlfriend that helps him out. She's the lady in the chair who runs all his operations. They leave it completely open, though, as to what happens to her. That annoyed me, because she's integral to the plot, but then after, spoiler alerts, Stane gets defeated, they don't mention anything about what happens to her. Like, they just drop her. Like, I guess she just, because they don't capture her or anything. So, I mean, it would have been nice to at least given her a panel that said that she went into hiding or something like that. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I heard about Matt Fraction's run on Iron Man, so I set out to find this. I got a library copy. I kind of actually got ripped off on this. I found it for $10 on Thrift Books. It said it was in good condition, but it didn't say it was a library copy. And that's what I got. And if you're selling a book and it's a library copy, like, you could say that. Now, some people are cool with library copies because you got these excellent, these dust jackets that are added to them. But, this thing has been read a lot. I mean, you can tell, this thing's been read a lot. So it's in decent shape, which is fine. But this probably should have gone for $5, plus shipping, $3, $7 total. But I recommend it. There is a second volume, which I'm gonna pick up when I can find it. I don't know. From what I could tell, this was not collected in anything other than these 2 slim volumes. I was thinking maybe there might be an epic version of it, or even an omnibus, but I guess the Fraction run wasn't so long that they could, do like a 600 or 700 page omnibus. But yeah, definitely worth picking up. That's all I got for comics. This is at 34 minutes. I was going to get into some books I recently purchased, but I think I'll leave those for another video. But if I do any more videos going forward that have books and comics in them, I'm going to break it up like this. I'm going to be like, okay, we'll do one segment for the comics, and then we'll do the books. So those of you who aren't interested in the books, just want to see the comic books, can see the comic books and then bail out. And those of you who want to see all of it, the comics and then the books, can watch the whole video. But I did have some books to go. Oh wait, one of these is a comic book. It's a manga. But it's Vagabond, Vagabond Volume 3. I've got Volumes 1 and 2, and I got this on sale also for like 30% off. But I don't want to get into it until I've read the first 2 volumes. But I've heard great things about Vagabond, and if you're a samurai fan, this is one of the books to get. But these other 3, these are volumes. Clearly, the Warhammer is a science fiction book. The other is 2666 and Gravity's Rainbow. Both are. I recently became aware of the term maximalist novel, so that got me on a kick to read maximalist novels. I had already read some maximalist novels before and didn't realize that they were maximalist. So, one of them being Don DeLillo's Underworld, which I read like when it came out, like in the year 2000. Another one was 1Q84, which I couldn't even get through like the first 240 pages of it till I just put it down, and I haven't picked it up for like 7 years. Now that I think about it, I don't think I've picked up that book in 7 or 8 years, but I held on to it. And as I was in my semi-delirium earlier in the week with the flu and kind of bedridden, I had plenty of time to I was like, well, let me pick it up and start reading it and see what happens, And it just hooked me. And now it's 1,024 pages. I'm on page 800. So, it's surprisingly a fast read. And I was like, why did I hate this book? Like, now I'm just entranced by it. So I'm going to finish that. And that's all I got for this one. I have more comics in the queue that I'm going to do a video about that. I've got a video about AI comics that I've been meaning to get to, but it's good that I waited on that because I've collected some more source material for that video. So, AI comics, take a deep breath. Let's all just relax. And what else was there? I wanted to do a video on the comics industry in general. There's been some recent news that's come out about recent comic sales that you are probably maybe familiar with, have heard, or have seen it on various parts of the internet. So, wanted to do some commentary on that, but mainly want to keep the flow of written and visual material coming in these videos. I also have a stack of movies that I need to go through with you that I've recently bought or have streamed, but mostly bought. I've been kind of grabbing some $5 DVDs lately to keep my physical media collection, growing at a minor pace. But I've cut a lot of my streaming services, so there's certain movies that I've been wanting to see. And so, when you're at Walmart and you see stuff and it's like not something that I have to see on Blu-ray, so I don't mind plunking down $5 for it, to get a DVD. I've picked up a few of those. So that's it. So much content, too little time. So, but that's a good problem to have. Until the next one, stay geek.